Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer. We're going to explore the absolutely fascinating journey of how humans evolved from being entirely dependent on nature to, well, completely modifying it. We'll be looking at the incredible story of human settlement, transport, and communication. It's really a story about how our vast, expansive planet has, in a very practical sense, become much, much smaller.
I mean, just think about our ancestors for a second. Early humans were completely at the mercy of their environment. They lived in caves, they lived up in trees, and they relied entirely on what nature immediately provided for food, clothing, and shelter. But contrast that reality with our modern world today. We've learned to grow our own massive food supplies, construct permanent homes in almost any climate imaginable, and engineer incredibly complex environments and global networks. We literally shape the world around us.
So, this brings us to a massive question about human ingenuity that we are going to unpack throughout this explainer. How exactly did we go from taking shelter in caves to instantly messaging someone on the exact opposite side of the globe? How did we bridge those immense physical gaps? Here is how we'll map out this journey today. First, we'll look at the evolution of human settlements. Second, adapting to the environment. Third, connecting by land. Fourth, navigating water and air. And finally, we'll cover the information revolution. All right, Section 1, Evolution of Human Settlements, from rivers to cities. When early humans finally shifted to agriculture, they suddenly needed permanent homes. But they didn't just build anywhere. They strategically selected locations, or sites, that practically guaranteed survival. They were looking for four absolutely crucial natural conditions: a favorable climate, reliable availability of water, suitable land for building, and fertile soil for farming. If a spot had those four things, a settlement thrived. And that's exactly why the very first massive settlements cropped up near highly fertile river valleys, places like the Indus, the Tigris, the Nile, and the Huanghe rivers. Now, it's also crucial to note that not all settlements are permanent, even today. People living in extreme environments, think deep forests, harsh deserts, or super rugged mountains, often rely on temporary settlements. A really fascinating example of this is transhumance. It's a seasonal movement where people who rear animals migrate in search of new pastures depending on the changing seasons. It goes to show that sometimes the best way to survive in nature is to just keep moving with it. Moving on to Section 2, adapting to the environment. Rural versus urban. Based on our surroundings, there is a stark contrast in how we actually choose to live. On one hand, you have compact settlements. These are closely built areas of dwellings that you typically see wherever flat land is available, creating dense towns and cities. On the other hand, you have scattered settlements, where homes are spaced out over a really extensive area. You'll mostly find these scattered rural setups in hilly tracts, thick forests, or regions with extreme climates where tightly packed building just isn't feasible. And this physical divide creates a massive lifestyle divide too. Take a story from our source material about two people, Prasad, who is visiting from a village, and a girl named Mary, who lives in a city. Prasad loves the open spaces and fresh air in his rural village, where life centers around agriculture, but he definitely notes the struggle of accessing good hospitals. Mary's urban city, though, is plagued by heavy traffic, terrible pollution, and squatter settlements due to a booming population. Yet, as Mary's parents point out, people continuously flock to these congested urban cities. Why? Well, because that is where the jobs, the better education, and the advanced medical facilities are. It's a constant trade-off. But beyond just the rural-urban divide, humans literally shape their architecture to survive highly specific climates. In areas that are prone to heavy rainfall and flooding, humans ingeniously construct houses on raised platforms or wooden stilts just to stay above the water. And on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, in freezing, icy environments, humans construct igloos entirely out of ice blocks to insulate and regulate the temperature inside. We literally use the very environment that challenges us to build our shelters. Let's look at Section 3, Connecting by Land, Roadways and Railways. So as these settlements grew from scattered villages to dense urban cities, people needed to trade goods and connect. Overcoming distance basically comes down to a balancing act between speed, cost, and the sheer weight of what we're moving. Roadways are your go-to for short distances and door-to-door service. Railways? Fantastic for moving heavy goods and people over long distances cheaply. Waterways take the crown for moving the absolute heaviest, bulky goods at the lowest overall cost. And airways? Well, they're the absolute fastest, but by far the most expensive. Let's zoom in on the land routes first.
The crucial point about roadways is that human engineering has pushed them way beyond flat, easy plains. Sure, we have standard metalled or pakka roads and unmetalled kacha roads, but we've also built massive underground subways and towering raised flyovers just to beat urban congestion. More impressively, we've carved roads into the most unforgiving terrains on Earth. The Manali-Leh Highway in the Himalayas is actually one of the highest roadways in the entire world. And massive expressways, like India's Golden Quadrilateral connecting major metropolises, show how roads are literally the vital arteries of modern nations.
Railways have similarly conquered extreme landscapes. Initially revolutionized by the steam engine and the Industrial Revolution, railways now use super advanced diesel and electric engines to move incredibly fast. To see just how far railway technology has come, consider the train journey from Xining to Lhasa. It runs at an astonishing altitude of 4,000 meters above sea level, reaching a high point of over 5,000 meters. I mean, we are literally running massive heavy trains through the clouds. And to fully grasp how railways connect the world on a macro scale, just look at the Trans-Siberian Railway. This is the longest railway system on the planet. It spans all the way across Russia, connecting St. Petersburg in the west to Vladivostok on the Pacific coast in the east. It's a monumental feat of engineering that shrinks a massive, massive continent into a single navigable journey. Section 4. Navigating water and air beyond land barriers. When land routes simply aren't enough, humans adapt by taking to the rivers and the oceans. Since the very early days, we've utilized waterways, and today they remain the absolute cheapest method for moving incredibly heavy, bulky merchandise. We utilize inland waterways, navigating major river systems and lakes like the Ganga, Brahmaputra, North America's Great Lakes, and the Nile. And then, of course, we have the massive oceanic sea routes. These connect the world's major economic hubs, ports like Singapore, Mumbai, New York, and Sydney, acting as the invisible conveyor belts of global trade. On the complete other extreme of the transport spectrum, we have airways. Developed in the early 20th century, air travel is the fastest way to move, turning journeys that once took months into mere hours. Yes, it's expensive due to fuel costs, and it's vulnerable to bad weather, but airways are completely unmatched for accessing totally isolated areas. When calamities strike and there are no roads or railways left, helicopters are often the only way to rescue people and distribute vital food, water, and medicine. Finally, Section 5, the Information Revolution. Untethered connection. You know, the ultimate human adaptation is finding ways to communicate and connect without having to physically travel anywhere at all. Communication is just the process of conveying messages to others, but the invention of mass media fundamentally changed human interaction. Through modes like newspapers, radio, and television, we suddenly gained the power to convey information, educate, and entertain a massive number of people simultaneously. We could broadcast a single idea to millions of minds at once without anyone ever leaving their living room. We've made an incredible leap in communication technology. I mean, we started out relying on animals like pigeons and human messengers to carry physical letters. Then we built massive, sprawling postal networks. The 20th century brought us the magic of voices and pictures traveling through the air with radio, television, and early telephones. And today, in the 21st century, we utilize a global, instantaneous digital network powered by satellites, the internet, and wireless cellular phones. It's wild to think about. And speaking of satellites, their impact goes far, far beyond just bouncing our emails and text messages around. They actually allow us to monitor and understand the very environment we've spent centuries trying to adapt to. Satellites help us survey vast forests, locate underground water and mineral wealth, forecast the weather with precision, and provide absolutely crucial early warnings for disasters. The tools we built to communicate are now the exact same tools we use to protect and sustain our settlements. Which brings us to our final and maybe most compelling question. Why is today's world shrinking? Think about everything we've covered in this explainer. From building the first settlements near fertile rivers just to survive, to engineering roads through mountain peaks, sailing massive cargo ships across oceans, and launching satellites into orbit. The world isn't physically getting any smaller, of course, but our incredible, relentless advancements in transport and communication have virtually erased the barriers of time and distance, making our vast, sprawling planet feel like a single, deeply connected global neighborhood. So, what do you think we will build next to bring us even closer together?